Good morning, parents. Thanks for joining us for Coffee and the Word, where we talk about the Bible, everyday life, and parenting principles. Today we're getting back into our Ephesians 5 series, talking about being Spirit-filled, and today specifically we're going to talk about using our speech to meet the need of the moment.
Welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying your week. If you've been with us all week, we've been kind of marinating in verse 21 of Ephesians 5. That verse says, "Be subject to one another in the fear of Christ." We talked about how that's really part of being Spirit-filled,
Yes.
loving others as ourselves according to the two great commandments. We've already looked at loving God and what that looks like for the Spirit-filled believer. And so we've looked at some practical ways to subject
we kind of
ourselves.
paused here and going around the Bible, looking at what it looks like to be subject to one another.
Yeah, and so we're going to do that one more time.
Looked at encouraging
Maybe
one
two.
another.
We'll see.
Encouraging one another.
And building each other up.
Yeah.
And then we also looked at using our gifts to serve one another as we subject ourselves to one another. So today we're looking at using our speech and our words, looking for the need of the moment. And so when I think about like subjecting ourselves one to another, we can like blow that very quickly with our words. Right.
Oh, I can think of many times where, guys, we like to do any version of the "because I said so," or not because I said so. I told you so. I'm sorry.
Oh,
That's
right.
what it was.
I was right.
I told you so. Or we like not even necessarily use words, but we'll just like give a look.
Sure.
I told you so.
So you can just crush someone's win in an instant with words that were not needed at that moment.
Exactly.
Right. We talked also like about how like your kids might like clean their room, like do the right thing, but then like the whole time they're just yelling and upset. Like our words totally show what's in our heart, and sometimes it's not fitting. It's not fitting for who we're supposed to be as believers, and it doesn't fit the need of the moment. And so we wanted to like just look across the page to Ephesians 4:29 to kind of explain what we're talking about. It says, "Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it will give grace to those who hear."
Right.
Wow, this is a convicting verse.
Oh, yeah. Then he follows that same idea, and we already read and talked about it a few days ago. You must not use any words of filthiness or silly talk or coarse jesting,
because those things aren't meeting the need of the moment.
Well, and right before that, right after this verse, it says, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you. Be tender-hearted, not have malice." These different things. Like he gives us strict guidelines for our speech. But I love that little piece in there that says only words that are good for edification, building up, that fit the need of the moment and give grace to those who hear. So like the opposite of grace to those who hear is "I told you so." Right?
Sometimes.
Absolutely. And so we might be right, especially like when we parent our kids, there's a lot of "I told you so" moments, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But is it ever giving grace to them to say like, "I told you this was going to happen"?
Yeah. Or do you hear our son? You know what he's saying? He's saying "mommy." He's not saying "daddy."
Yeah, because mommy's the one who gives more grace.
Right. But because he knows that I won't come and open the door. But he knows that you might. And,
It's true. And so he's
and there
calling
have
for
been many
mom right
moments
now.
where I go, "That's your fault."
It's true.
But that's not
Need for the moment?
Yeah, using words for the need for the moment.
It's true.
There's a much more gentle and encouraging way to handle a situation like that.
Right. And so we wanted to talk about that a little bit. We're going to look at some other scriptures too that kind of guide our words. But we wanted to talk a little bit about this need for the moment. What might your kids need from you in the moment, and how can your words meet that need? Now, always take a second. Like if you're walking into a situation with your kids and you're like, "I don't know what's happening here, what to do," just pray and ask the Lord.
Right.
The Holy Spirit is our guide, and He's so faithful. But there are a few principles of different needs that our kids have that we thought this was a good opportunity to share with you.
Okay.
They've kind of guided student ministry for us, family ministry, kids ministry for us, but it's actually a parenting principle.
It is, and again, it's from another book that we've read, and we do recommend.
But each
reading
idea
as
is
a
also
parent.
like comes straight from Scripture, and
For
so we'll
sure.
share some of those verses
But
too.
yeah, if you want to look up the book, or even the guy does videos.
Yeah.
Josh McDowell does videos where you can just watch, little
A
3-4
clip on
minute
it.
videos
You
on
don't
each
have to read
topic.
the whole book.
But the book's called The Disconnected Generation,
Mm-hmm.
and he talks about the 7 A's.
And building a relationship with your kid ultimately so that
Is the
they will
point, yeah.
have a relationship with Jesus.
Right.
And bridging that gap for them as
Mm-hmm.
parents. But he talks about different needs that our kids have, and these are areas that your words really come into play. And so you might walk into a situation, and one of the needs of your kids would be, they all start with A. It makes them super easy to remember. And so in the moment, what are some things they might need?
Are you talking about the 7 A's?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't have the list memorized off the top of my head, but
they're right there.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
affirmation is the first one. I do know that.
Yes.
Affirming your children in who they are. We talked
Right.
about this the other day. Effort over outcome. But affirmation, affirming who they are and the effort and who God created them to be.
Right. So
Yeah.
Romans 12:15 says, we rejoice with those who rejoice, and we mourn with those who mourn, or weep with those who weep.
Yeah.
The idea of affirmation is that you let your kids know, like, what you're feeling is real. So, for instance, you might have a kid totally weeping over the fact that they just broke a toy, and they were playing with it in a way that you told them not to. And you could say, I told you were going to break it. You were being too
I've
rough.
done that. I've done that.
Or you could say, like, dude, this is from the dollar store. It's nothing to cry about. I've done that.
Okay.
Or you can sit down and affirm how they're feeling. I know you loved this toy. I'm so sorry that you're upset right now. I think we could probably find something else to play with, or a way to fix this. We can get another one.
You know what I've done more? Our kids are in that phase where they whine for you when you're gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it. She's not here.
Dang it.
It didn't affirm him.
No, it's not affirming. So that you might need to look at a moment and say what's needed here, and what you might see is, like, especially if you're seeing some emotion or something,
Yeah.
your kid might just need to be affirmed. Like, let them know your experience is real. It's authentic. Like,
Yeah, which that's the whole point in all of these things is showing them that they're a real human being, that you care for them.
and you're a real human being.
It's similar to
God
the-
cares about their emotions. Like,
Yeah, it's similar to the I think it's Stephen Chapman. I don't know. Chapman's the guy, but I don't know if Stephen's
Gary
first name.
Chapman?
Gary Chapman.
Stephen Curtis Chapman.
I'm down and in. I'm going deep. There you
Yes,
go.
you
That's
are.
my singing. But no,
Gary
Gary
Chapman.
Chapman's 5 Love Languages.
Right.
Another good book.
Yes. Well, maybe that'll be another day. So affirmation. Your kid might need affirmation. They also might just need acceptance. Do you want to talk about that?
Acceptance is, again, accepting who they are as a human being, not their productivity, not their behavior. A lot of times people are like, well, I'm not going to accept them because they're misbehaving. No, you're accepting the human being, not the behavior that they
Right.
are.
It's this idea of, like, unconditional love. There's nothing that you could do that would disappoint me too
It's
much.
the prodigal son.
Yeah.
It's the father and the prodigal son.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what he had done.
We're
He's
not-
still going to kill the fatted lamb and
Yeah. You're not, like, okaying the behavior.
No.
There's probably still consequence.
no. And there's a balance there. You have to figure out when you're okaying the behavior by, like,
Accepting. I love
yeah,
you
because we do,
anyway.
and
Like,
parents do struggle with that, enabling their kid to do the wrong behavior because of,
yeah, there still should be consequence sometimes, or all the time, depending on the kid.
which we'll get down. And one of the things is accountability.
Yes, it's
so
what it
if
is.
you can have acceptance and accountability and have both of them work together.
Right. So there's just this idea that just like the Lord, we never out-sin him, right? There's never not any more grace. Or, like, if we come repentant, he accepts us every time. And so it's that idea that with our kids, we will accept you no matter what. You didn't have this because you're not a woman.
Nope, not.
I had the knowledge of, as a teenager, if I come home pregnant, I might as well not come home, because
Okay.
I would not be accepted. That
Right.
would be the line. I would be disowned.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know,
Yep.
I did not feel accepted. There was not like an idea of unconditional.
Right. No, I get that.
Now, whether that was true or not, it wasn't actually. I didn't come home pregnant, but someone else did. But I felt that way, right? Because I needed to know more, I guess, of that acceptance. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, and again, we have talked about how those things are subtly communicated through many things that you do. And so while those words were never actually said, they were communicated through actions or through other things that were said.
in my other life experiences,
Yeah.
there was a whole lot of things going on. But, you know, do your kids feel that way? Do they think there's something they can't tell you? Because if they do, that would be it. You know, that you wouldn't love them anymore.
Right.
They shouldn't feel that from us.
Right.
And so acceptance is super important. And so your words sometimes need to communicate acceptance. You know what? I know you messed up. I love you anyway.
Yeah.
It's never going to be too much. I'm always going to love you anyway.
Right.
You know?
And that one's hard because acceptance does not actually approve behavior. And, you know, if you have a lot of questions with that, because there are some
It can be
questions
hard
out
to
there
navigate.
with gender identity and things like that, that parents are like, what does acceptance look like, and what does enabling that behavior look like, and things like that. That can be very tough, you
Yeah.
know. And so if you have questions with that, we'd love to, you know, hear from you. You can write us in, and we can kind of give you some more personal direction on that,
Right.
because that's a tough one.
Another big one, another A. So we've had affirmation and acceptance. Another A that your words might need to meet the need of the moment is appreciation.
Yes, and appreciation is a lot of what we have already talked about.
Yeah.
How we're looking for positive reinforcement over negative reinforcement, and so, but again, I'm gonna keep harping this thing. It's appreciating the person and the character and the effort, and not the
And who
outcome.
God made them to be. Thinking about, you know, Proverbs, train up the child in the way they should go, and their giftings.
Right. When we appreciate or we do anything about the outcome, you know, if it's for one child, it actually speaks to other children too, because they see it happening. But if we're always praising a kid for good grades, for being the best,
The
for
cleanest
being-
room.
yeah, all that kind of stuff, the other kids are listening.
And they're saying, I'm not.
Yeah, as well as they're learning, like, the way mom and dad love me is if I clean my room, and so like, or I'd get good grades, and so they learn, like, you're reinforcing that the behavior matters and not the relationship with the person.
Yeah, and this is really tough because you might like super appreciate the kid who never cleans their room because they finally did, and then the kid that always cleans their room is like, where
Yeah.
was my appreciation?
Oh yeah, we get that with our daughter's potty training, and one of the things that we did was these marshmallows. Like, if she
Yes.
went poop on the potty, she got a marshmallow.
And big marshmallows.
Yeah.
Little marshmallows if you go pee.
Okay, but you get a marshmallow, you know, and then the other child is like, can I have a marshmallow? And it's like, no, you can't, because these are.
I mean, I appreciate that you're potty trained, but you have been for 4 years.
You should have seen her face.
Usually we
But
give her
at the same
marshmallows.
time, I'm communicating a lot to her in that moment about, like, what this means and the value of this, and
How special it is.
yeah, and same things happen. Like, one of them asked me, "Hey, can we snuggle?" You know, and then the other one was like, "I want to snuggle." I'm like, "No, it's just special time with her," you know, and you know, that communicates a lot.
And we
in a
make sure
good
we
way.
say, like, remember, we do this with you too.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And or right now, like, you're not working on potty training, you're working on this, and there'll
Yeah,
be a
exactly.
reward. And so
Every child's
appreciate
different, and they
things.
get treated differently.
Yeah, the thing that's important about appreciation is it communicates a sense of significance.
Yeah.
That you
Well, all of these
matter.
things
Well, I'm
do.
saying
Yeah.
specifically appreciation is about significance. So
Yeah.
like affirmation was about authenticity, like it's authentic, it's real.
Right.
Appreciation is about your significance, that you matter. And every kid needs to know that they matter.
Uh-huh.
They matter to God, they matter to you, they matter as part of your home.
Right.
And so the need for the moment is sometimes appreciation, like, look, I see you, you know, and I'm so glad that God has given us you to us. We talk about that a lot with our kids when they're upset with each other, or when we're having a hard time with one, and maybe like they see it and they'll say something about it. And I try and say, you know what, though, I'm so glad that God gave us brother and he's
Yeah.
part of our family, or I'm
Yeah.
so glad that God gave us you and you're part of our family. And
Yeah, you're modeling appreciation in front of them, which is, again, another thing that we've talked about, just modeling back from Deuteronomy 6 as well. Yeah, so the next one, though, is very important and usually very hard for dads to do, but is affection, having appropriate affection. And affection is really, honestly, that physical contact point.
and it's harder as your kids get older.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, they
Well, it's
don't-
harder as they get older, but a lot of the reasons it's hard is we didn't do it when they were young.
True.
And so,
So then it seems awkward.
the younger you can do things with your kids when it's appropriate, the younger you can do things, the more natural it is when they get to that phase of teenagehood when they don't want it anymore. When
Right.
they're seeking it from outside influences. And so,
Like
this
with-
one specifically, finding appropriate ways to physically affection, whether that's hugs or appropriate kisses and things like that.
Yeah.
Snuggle times,
Right.
laying in the bed reading a book
Even if
together.
it's just, like, maybe you don't have a kid who needs all that, but it's just a high five or a fist bump, like,
Well, and knowing your kids and like,
and not forcing it on the ones that it's not.
Lily will just like come up to me and kind of do this, and
If she does that, it's huge, because
But-
if you try and hug her on your terms, it's not happening. She'll run away.
but I'm just saying, like, that's her thing. Like,
Yeah.
and just knowing that about her. And Zoe just wants to sit on the couch and watch animals hunting animals, like PBS documentaries.
And Zeke just wants to be right here.
Yes. Yes.
They all have their different things, and so figuring out how you can express affection to your kid is important. And
Right.
this one, it shows a sense of lovability, that they are lovable. And so there are some foundational needs that we need as human beings, and one of them is that we know that we're lovable. We know that we're competent. These are like
Yeah.
foundational psychological needs.
Right.
And so lovability is important, and it comes from affection from our parents at the youngest age. If we don't give it to them,
They seek it from the
they
outside.
will
and
go
that's,
find it.
And that's what you see end up happening with any child is if they don't have these things, just like the 5 love languages, they're things, they're needs of their
they need it. Yeah.
psychosis, or whatever. Like, they need it. Psyche, not psychosis.
It's a different thing.
It's the need of, like, God put in them. I mean, it says in Genesis chapter 2, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make woman for him. And so relationship is something that God wired into us from creation. And so with that, if we don't provide it, they go seek it from other people. And
Right.
sadly, Satan is roaming around seeking whom he may devour. And he's going to find your kids, and the wrong people are going to find your kids.
Right. An unhealthy relationship, or
Yeah, and so this one too, very, especially in that teenage years. If you could start before they're teenagers and have this proper affection, they won't seek affection from the opposite sex.
yeah.
They won't go outside of your house. And so, dads, if you have appropriate, healthy affection for your daughters, they're not going to go seek boyfriends.
But it's not as hungry of a need.
Yeah.
Because they're looking
and-
for. I mean, our flesh craves that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that sense of comfort and security and
Yeah.
love. Like,
And moms, if you do that with your sons, and moms and dads, if like,
do it with each other.
the reason daddy-daughter dances exist is because it works.
Yeah.
Find daddy-daughter dates, find mother-son dates, and opportunities to go out one-on-one and teach them what appropriate, healthy.
And so I think about
affection
this
looks
one
like.
like need for the moment. You might like have a kid that comes and there's like maybe they did something wrong that was sin, and they express that, as well as like how they're feeling about it, and they're just a mess. The value of a hug in that moment, that they're
Right.
still lovable, like what that that might be the need of the moment, not the let me hold you accountable right now. Okay, sit down, stop crying. We need to talk about your punishment.
Right.
Might not be the need of the moment, and so
Right. Well, we are just like halfway through these A's, and I just like to leave you on cliffhangers. And so I also know that this is a lot of information, a lot of things going on. And so we want to give you guys the weekend to actually process some of these things,
practice some of
them. Maybe write in how it's going, or ask some questions more detailed
how
to
can
your
I do
situation.
this? Whatever it is.
If you're like, how does that really practically look in my situation with my scenario? Maybe you're in a single parent home or a split family.
Maybe you need an
all
idea
sorts
of
of things.
quarantine family daughter dates.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know. We would love to give you some direction, but I'd love for you to join us on Monday as we'll continue this conversation of really what it means to say the right thing in the moment.
Yeah,
is
as
where we're
part of
coming
subjecting
from
to one
Ephesians,
another.
is how to have the right thing to say in the moment, and we're going to finish these A's and what those things look like in our life.